Hi, my name's Megan Piles with Teach Me ABA, powered by Piles & Associates. This is the first video in a three-part series about applying to graduate school. In this series, you'll see me talking with some of the behavior technicians that are part of our team that I supervise. I'm so excited to be helping them with the process of getting into grad school, and I hope this video helps you too. In this part of the series, we'll discuss where to apply to school, the differences between in-state and out-of-state tuition, online versus in-person classes, and also how to look at your potential class schedule and how to incorporate that with your life. So Kimberly, Felipe, and Charlotte, you guys finished your bachelor's degrees this year, and Michael will be finishing the next year. So I just have like a general outline of things that we can chat about, and then you guys can like ask any questions that come up. So I figured we would start with selecting a school. That's kind of like the first step. I applied to 13 different schools. You don't have to do that, but I applied just like all over the country because I was at a point in my life where it's like I wasn't living near family anyways, and so it's like, well, I'll just cast a wide net and go where I get accepted. So that is one thing that you need to consider when you're applying to grad schools is location. Another thing to consider is in-state or out-of-state tuition. So if you stay in California, you obviously would pay in-state tuition. One great thing about California, it's one of the only states that you can become a resident with the school even if you weren't during your first year. I've gone to college in a couple different states and no other state allows that except for California. So when watching on YouTube, wanting to go to a California school, it's a great benefit. So location, there's also a lot of online schools. So if you're looking at going into an online school, they also have in-state and out-of-state tuition. So that may be something that you want to look at. Like the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, I think that they have a state tuition like based in California. But a university like Ball State University that also has an online graduate program is based in Indiana, I believe. And so if you're living in California but going to that Ball State program, you would pay that out-of-state tuition. So online learning or distance learning versus in-person learning. And there are also different types of online universities too. There are some universities where you can just sit and kind of watch the class whenever. And then there are other universities that are distance learning. And so in those, you actually need to be in class in a specific time. And I think a benefit to that is that you get similar to the, in-person learning, you get to talk with the other students, which is great for networking later in your career. You get to know your professor a little better, which is also great. And you just get to practice speaking ABA. It's one thing to be able to hear it and be able to pass a multiple choice exam, but you get a lot more experience and practice, which is great when you apply it clinically if you're practicing speaking in front of other behavior analysts. I think that having in-person learning is really helpful because you have that direct access. And so your professors are invested in you because they see you face-to-face each day, and you're invested in your other students, so you can get together as a group. And so for people who really thrive in that type of social environment, I think that's great. For online classes, I think that's great for people whose schedules, maybe they need to work full-time, so they can't go to a class in the middle of the day, or maybe they live in a location and they're not able to move. But I think if you are going to an online program, making it a point to have direct interactions with your professors, even if you're not watching class live, if you're watching it at a later point in time, just reaching out and talking with them and practicing, writing in behavioral jargon, making sure that you have that correct line of thinking. I think a lot of universities have started gearing towards like multiple choice exams, which doesn't give you much opportunity to really think critically. Like you can kind of pass by without being able to speak ABA. But if you're out working in the field, you need to be able to speak it, which I think is one of the real advantages of the in-person or like the distance learning model where you actually have to attend with other classmates. But for some people, just their life situation, online is much better for them. So tied to that is class schedule is something else you want to think of. I know there are certain local universities in our area where their classes are primarily on weekday afternoons, which for those of us who work with kids who are elementary school age through high school age, you can't really work with a client if all of your classes are in the afternoon, if your client usually has after school classes. So that may be a good thing to reach out to the university and ask them when are classes usually held, how long are classes. The university that I went to really did a great job at making sure that our class schedule was something that we could also work around work. So I had class a couple mornings a week for just 3-hour chunks, and then it was really easy to schedule around that. So that's something else to consider, is just like how feasible or how much does the school adapt to the working student? Because as BCBAs, you also need to be accruing those supervision hours, unless you want to wait years until after you graduate to become a BCBA. But it's kind of fun making better money. So I think, suffering through grad school and working while you're doing graduate school and taking classes at the same time is really helpful. And also you get to in person enact those things that you just learned. So I think that's really helpful. Thank you so much for watching. In next week's video, we'll cover the following topics: how to find a school that aligns with your interests, and then we'll go into the difference between research-based programs and clinical-based programs. We'll also talk about the benefits of getting involved in undergraduate research. Finally, we'll discuss pass rates, how to determine that for different universities, and also taking the GRE. See you next time. Please remember to like, subscribe, and if you have a question about applying to grad schools, leave a comment below and we'll be sure to address it in an upcoming video.